If you're ready to discover, seize, and create the future, then we welcome you to join us in the Futures Podcast.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
So hi everyone, and welcome to the first edition of the Futures Podcast. Of course, I am Frank Spencer, and you may know me as the creative director and one of the principals at Kedge, or one of my recent movie roles, I was one of the smaller dinosaurs in Jurassic World. And sitting with me here, of course, is the principal and managing director of Kedge, Yvette Salvatico, and it's great that we are able to be together on the show today, Yvette.
Hello, everyone. Yes, I'm thrilled to be here. Thanks, Frank.
It's great.
And I was not a small dinosaur.
No, you were not in Jurassic World. Maybe in the upcoming Star Wars.
I wish. I hope. I would love to.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Yep. So we want to just, besides the silliness that we're doing here, we want to get serious on our first podcast here and talk briefly about the Future School, because, of course, this is called the Futures Podcast. And the riff here sort of is that this is a branch of the Future School, but much more than that. There's a lot of things that we want to talk about in upcoming episodes, but it's a great place for us to start, Yvette, today is to talk about the Future School in general, and of course our upcoming cohort, which is in Burbank in LA, October 13th through the 15th. We're excited about that. We've got a lot of good people showing up for the school already. Yeah,
and maybe where we could start is sort of where the idea for the Future School even came from. I mean, I think that you and I have talked about how to bring futures and foresight to the general public for a long time. Many of you know already that our mantra and our DNA is really to teach people how to fish. We really believe everybody can and should be a futurist. And so that shapes everything that we do at Kedge. So we had done a fair amount of work with different companies, including the Walt Disney Company, and had honed a pretty cool toolkit. But of course, what we were hearing from people was, we don't have the budget that the Walt Disney Company has, and we can't afford you to come out and do a full-blown session for all our leaders, or I don't have the internal support yet to do this. I think it's amazing, but I can't convince my leadership. So it dawned on us one day, why can't we create a program similar to the one that we've done at Disney and in other companies, but open it up to the public?
Yeah, well, literally, I think you were at a conference. Of course, we speak at all kinds of different conferences, everything from HR leadership conferences to going out to Orca Island and speaking to, the Association of Zoos and Aquariums, and everything in between. But you were at actually an entrepreneurial conference or an innovators conference.
Yeah, I think it was the OD Network. Was the conference that really pushed us over the edge. It was like fall of last year, actually.
Yeah.
Again, we've been talking about this concept for a while, but at these conferences, what struck me was how many entrepreneurs were going to these conferences and really footing their own bill. Even intrapreneurs, so even folks within companies, were trying to get development at these conferences, in some cases paying their own way to go to these conferences because they felt so passionate about it. And they would come to our sessions, and we would talk about different things. We would talk about foresight for change management. We would talk about foresight and innovation and in strategy development. And the common theme was people coming up to us afterwards and saying, how do we get to learn more about this? What is there out there? And aside from, some master's degree programs and some very academic-based certification programs, there really wasn't anything out there that can give people in a relatively short amount of time, an immersive experience in strategic foresight that led to a toolkit with practical application. So we said, well, we've got to fill this void.
Yeah, and that makes me think, too, that I would like to just talk briefly about how we really see Foresight in a reframed kind of way for the 21st century. It plays on this whole idea at Kedge of pulling yourself to the future and creating the future today, and complexity being our friend, and all of those things that we really believe in the DNA at Kedge that makes the future school a quite different experience from some of the more traditional certification programs that have been around, 3 or 5 day programs. Maybe we'll just talk about that for a minute, because I think that's really critical. I mean, a lot of people might come ask us. I know you were on the phone today with somebody who's wanting to come to the upcoming cohort, and they wanted to know the difference between, this program and others. And like you said earlier, we've been to, 20 countries around the world the past 4 years, and basically the school is a replica of that 3-day program, and we do other length programs as well, but it's a replica of that. But it's more to it than that. It's not just the basics of Foresight. We really believe that Foresight's being reshaped for the 21st century.
Yeah, ultimately we really believe that Foresight shouldn't exist in a division, or shouldn't be walled off within a department or a sole practitioner. If it's fine if that's where you're starting from, but ultimately Foresight is best served as the operating system of your organization, not an app that just gets you through the next 5-year plan, but something that runs in the background consistently and shapes not only your strategy and innovation development, but your culture ultimately. And so because of that, we are able to attract to our future school not just entrepreneurs and strategists and business development folks and innovators who we love, but also HR professionals and lawyers and finance professionals. Really, ultimately, everybody can use this toolkit, because it's not just a toolkit. It's a new way of thinking. It's a new way of approaching leadership. And it's required in this environment. Yeah,
and at the upcoming cohort in Los Angeles in October, we've got a provost from one of the biggest psychology universities in the United States coming, but alongside him will be executives from the transportation industry, from the energy industry, from healthcare.
Yeah, we have accountants coming in from an accounting association.
And Canadian government as well, I believe.
So it should be a really good group. I think that's one of the really big benefits of the future school, is that you're going to have an incredible cohort of diverse peers and other professionals from outside your field and outside your industry that are going to help you challenge your thinking and help you probably come up with some brand new ideas for how to approach your own problems. And not only that, you'll keep connected with them through our social network after the course as well. But there's nothing better than spending 3 days with 29 other thought leaders who think like you. Right now you're sitting there and you're frustrated because you're the lone wolf. You're the only one that thinks like this in your organization, and that's super frustrating. Let us connect you to 20 or more others that think like you do. Have this experience alongside of them. Help them and help yourself think differently about the future and how you begin creating the future today.
Yep. So, of course, a lot of this sounds like a big ad for the Future School, and we're excited about the Future School, but the Futures podcast is going to be about much more than just the actual school itself and how you can attend. In the upcoming episodes, we want to talk about, all kinds of neat stuff, and maybe even take some ideas from our listening audience. But this makes me think also how two things about the school and just in general the way we approach futures anyway, besides the school, is really a positive outlook about the future. And that doesn't mean that negative things or bad things don't come in the future, or we don't need to look into those, because we do. They're helpful as well. But really in our DNA is to really transform the future, or create the future, right? And also to this concept of creating new toolkits and new ways to new methodologies to create the future or to deal with the future, right? So we've done a lot of that at school as well, and maybe you have some thoughts too about how we really pull ourselves to the future and create the future, and what are you thinking about that?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately it's about empowering ourselves and our teams, because everybody's creating the future. It's just a question of whether we're doing it with a specific vision in mind, and whether we're doing it with an aspiration in mind, and that's a critical piece. I think for far too long we focused on risk management and building up our walls in our organizations and even in our personal lives, and that what ultimately happens is you become more brittle and more fragile, right?
That's right.
So futures thinking and foresight actually can strengthen and make your organization much more resilient and obviously transformative. And the fact of the matter is, in this environment, your competitor is going to be more likely to come from outside your industry than within your industry. So if you're not actively scanning the environment in that macro space where social, technological, environmental, economic, and political change emerges, then it's only a matter of time before you're taken out. So making sure you have that perspective, you're looking from the outside in, and that you're constantly pushing yourselves to be disruptive and, as you said, transformative. What is within the DNA of our company, of our organization, or even us as individuals? And what is that DNA meant to be when it grows up? What is that higher order purpose? Foresight can help you answer those questions as well.
Yeah, that's really powerful. And it just makes me think that in a previous era, and maybe it was right, that foresight really was more of a risk management tool and of course dealt with things from a very linear perspective. But I think the environment we're in, where complexity is just escalating, and maybe we'll talk about this on another episode, we believe that to be a good thing.
Yeah.
And we're needing to transform, and we need answers to really big world wicked problems that foresight really has to take on a different characteristic, a different atmosphere than it did, say, 20 years or even 10 years ago.
I mean, we're in a completely different environment. I mean, just look at globalization and sort of the systemic risk that's inherent in the global economy. Do we really believe that methodologies and analytic methods that we've used for the last 10, 20, 30, 40 years are really still effective going forward? It's craziness when you really think about that. I mean, is your car, is the technology in your car the same that it's been 30 years ago? Of course not. But yet within our organizations, we're using the same exact planning methods that we used 20, 30 years ago. We've maybe added some bells and whistles and put it in Excel, but for the most part, we're looking to history to extrapolate a linear forecast forward, and then we wonder why it doesn't work. We wonder why it's ineffective. We're not in that industrial age environment. We're not in an assembly line widget producing environment. Our economy is intangible. Knowledge is the center point, and we can no longer, rely on those old methodologies. Yeah,
so our foresight methods and just thinking have to be able to leverage and harness complexity, and that's what we really want to be able to accomplish. I know you tell clients all the time, too, of the story about Laurel Ingalls Wilder and Little House on the Prairie, and if she were transported to today, she would freak out at Disney World and freak out in Super Target, but she wouldn't freak out in any public school because it looks exactly the same, and our foresight can't be the same either. So I think we sort of burn our time here for this podcast, but I did want to end by saying that, recently, and we've advertised this a good bit, that you were able to write a great edition of TD at Work, and people might not know what that is, so why don't you explain what you did with that, because I think this is a great segue into what we teach at the school as well.
Yeah, so the Association of Talent Development, formerly ASTD, now ATD, approached me several months ago to write one of their editions of what's called TD at Work, which is a sort of a smaller publication that synthesizes an area. So, for example, they've had one on strategic planning, one on strategic thinking, one on coaching. And so I did one on the futurist leader. And it is great way to sort of either if you're new to the field to gain entry, or if you're familiar with the field to have a more holistic perspective that you can share with others to sort of build that business case. It takes you through the entire foresight process from assumption and bias work through environmental scanning and scenario development and action. It provides resources and references as well as job aids and checklists. It's an all-encompassed, standalone little guide that's pretty powerful for only 15 pages. So that's available through ATD, or if you contact us, we'll be happy to send you a copy of it as well. And we're really proud of it. It's a great little tool for those of you that are interested.
Yeah, it really is a fantastic tool. And so again, you can go to td.org and look under their publications, and it's maybe a couple of months back, but easy to find on their website and to order from there, because it's really their baby, but something we were able to do with them as well. And I think on the upcoming episodes, it'll be great to talk about, as you're already saying that, the natural foresight method, which is really the new framework for the 21st century of how we see foresight. We'll talk about complexity and all kinds of great stuff that's coming up. So it was fun talking with you today.
All right. Well, yep. I hope everybody has a great day, and we'll talk to you in our next episode.
Yeah, we'll see you soon. Bye-bye. The Futures Podcast is brought to you by The Futures School, a 3-day, one-of-a-kind, interactive and project-based program that empowers participants with the critical skills of strategic foresight and futures thinking for our new era of exponential complexity and accelerating change. And is also brought to you by Kedge, a global foresight, strategy, innovation, and business design company that empowers organizations to pull themselves into opportunities, aspirations, and transformational growth. You can visit us at www.thefuturesschool.com and at www.kedgefutures.com.